Hi, and welcome back to Explaining Acro. I'm Cassandra, and this is Ben, and today we're going to be giving you some tips to improve your hand-to-hand. Hand-to-hand is a complex technical skill, and making progress involves more than just repetitions. Developing a strong mental model is crucial as it helps you understand the mechanics of this skill. And this helps you in troubleshooting when problems arise, but also provides strategic direction for your long-term practice and improvement. We want to help guide you towards a stable and throwable position, which serves as the foundation for advanced hand-to-hand skills. These are some of our core ideas and principles that make up our mental models, and we hope that you find these helpful in deepening your understanding of this skill.
The first idea that we want to talk about is how to use torque and rotation in order to generate stability in your hand-to-hand. Both bases and flyers want to have stable shoulders in a hand-to-hand position. Externally rotating our shoulders can generate stability by tightening the surrounding musculature and restricting the movement of the arm in the shoulder socket. In order to have people get an idea of what that external rotation feels like, I like to have them imagine that they're holding a PVC pipe or a stick or something like that out in front of them. From here, we're going to think about breaking that stick in half. I'm thinking about pulling my shoulder blades down and feeling everything get tight around my shoulder. Once this starts to feel comfortable, we can do this overhead as well. This corresponds to an extended hand-to-hand position for a base or a handstand for a flyer. Bases, we also want to think about doing this when we have our arms in that low hand-to-hand basing position. Now that we've talked about external rotation in order to generate tension for both bases and flyers, we're going to talk about how we can apply this to the hand-to-hand connection itself. In this connection, we're both going to be applying a little bit of torque in order to push into each other and generate even more stability. So I take my grip and I rotate out a little bit, and the base is going to resist. We're not trying to overpower each other, but we do want to have a nice solid push. If there's too much from the flyer, then the knuckles can wind up pointing out. If the base has too much, then the knuckles can end up pushing in, and then the flyer is going to be an internal rotation for their shoulders and their handstand, which is less stable. We're trying to find the happy middle ground where the knuckles are pointed forwards.
The next principle we're going to talk about is creating body tension in our handstand. In hand-to-hand, we want the flyer's body to be as tight as possible. And this allows the base and flyer to handle most of the balancing in the hands. Loose points, or what we call energy leaks, can occur at any joint above the wrist, but most commonly occur in the shoulders, the spine, the ribs, and the hips. This is a drill that we like to teach flyers how to create body tension. So we're going to start in a plank position. We want to have engaged shoulders slightly rounded. We want to tuck our hips under and squeeze our butt, because then our partner is going to come pick up our feet, and we want to stay as tight as possible as they do that.
I'm going to come to my flyer, and if they're super strong, I can lift just by the feet, but to make it a little bit easier, I can start by lifting by the thigh. Here, I'm just lifting the legs up and into a handstand position. If the flyer has loose hips or loose shoulders or something like that, it's going to feel heavy and they're going to struggle to get up.
Another drill that we like for creating this body tension is by laying in a hollow body position on our back, once again squeezing that core, squeezing the glutes, and then our partner's going to pick up our feet.
From here, I'm lifting off of the ground. I can start to take away one hand after the other. If there is not body tension here, when I let go, things like that can happen. Challenge this. We can start taking off hands a little bit more quickly, or even add in a little bit of a shake as we're doing it. And the flyer is trying to squeeze their legs together the whole time.
Another way that we really like to practice this tension is by challenging the handstand shape itself. And you can do this in a standing handstand shape or in the handstand itself.
I can take my flyer's wrists or on top of their hands and push straight down. And if there's some kind of tension fault, we'll find out pretty quick. When the flyer kicks to a handstand, I'm going to help them stabilize before I start to push. And then I'm going to grab the ankles and push straight down. Again, if there's looseness, we're going to find out pretty quick. From here, I can try and rotate the flyer. And if their shoulders are loose, it'll look like that. The next thing we want to talk about is getting the base's butt back. Now, when we're basing hand to hand, you have this weight, which is your flyer, in front of you. If you don't do anything about that, you're going to end up falling forwards. There's a couple strategies for dealing with this, and one of the most common ones I see for new bases is to lean back in order to shift the center of mass back over the hips. There's a couple problems with this. So problem number one is that as I'm leaning back, the flyer's wrist angle is changing unless I'm flexing my wrists at the same time, which is kind of hard to do, and I just generally don't recommend. The second thing is all your weight is in this back foot, so if you need to move, it's going to be very difficult, and at the point that you want to start actually throwing things, you're not going to be able to generate as much power. Now, the solution to this is instead of leaning our chest back, is to push our hips back so that all this weight in the back counterbalances the weight that's in the front. From here, I'm in a nice athletic position, and I'm able to shift with my legs in order to get underneath the flyer as needed, and I'm still able to bend and throw powerfully for dynamic skills.
Now let's talk about idea number 4, which is to master the tuck handstand. Some of the most common issues we see with flyer technique in hand-to-hand are arching the back to get into the handstand, not getting the hips high enough, or struggling to engage the core to stop the handstand from falling into an arch. All of these faults can be addressed by mastering the tuck handstand. There are several reasons we enjoy incorporating tuck handstands into our practice. First, the tuck position simplifies the movement by reducing the involvement of the legs in balancing. And this allows the flyer to focus more on the core engagement and getting their hips up. Additionally, the tuck serves as an antidote to the arching. It effectively strengthens our core and minimizes the ability to arch into the handstand. Before jumping into the tuck handstand, we like to start with this drill. And this is a warm-up that I always do before acro practice or before handstands, and something we come back to often. So to start this drill, you want to start on your knees and put your hands right by your knees. And from here, we want to think about pushing the ground down and lifting our belly button up while not using our feet. So we start here, push down through our hands, lift our hips up and back down. And once again, there shouldn't be any weight in the feet in this position. It's mostly the arms and the core engaging. Once that drill is feeling good and you're feeling strong in those positions, then we can add a little bit more to that. And now we're gonna end up in a handstand tuck position. A few things that I wanna talk about before this though, is that in this skill, we're still pushing with the arms, engaging the core, and we're not using the legs to get to this tuck position. Additionally, we want to keep our knees to our chest. Often I see tuck handstands with the heels to the butt, and this causes that open arch position that we're trying to avoid. And then lastly is we want this to be controlled. We're controlling the up and controlling the down, moving as slow as possible and touching the ground as gently as possible. Another way that you can practice this jump into tuck handstand is with a spotter and starting from the feet rather than the knees.
Here, I'm thinking about helping the hips get up aggressively. If they're jumping under, I'm going to give a little bit of assistance, but I'm going to allow them to control the down.
In flyers, although we're starting on our feet this time, we still really want to think about engaging the arms and pushing to get up into the handstand position and lift the hips, rather than our legs doing a lot of that work. Another great way to incorporate tuck handstand into your acro practice is by doing it in hand-to-hand. And this is a really great way to work jump into hand-to-hand and getting that core to engage properly.
Our final idea is that we want to think about generating balance through resistance. In order to do this, we need a stable platform that we can generate resistance from, and we need to know how to apply that resistance. In order to generate that stable platform, aside from externally rotating my shoulder like we talked about, I'm thinking about the position of my scapula or shoulder blade. If my scapula is sitting basically vertically on my ribs and there's weight on my hand, my elbow is going to tend to drop and the flyer can go forward towards their head, which is bad. If I have a slight upward tilt to my scapula, on the other hand, I'm much stronger in this position, and I'm actually much more likely to bend laterally than I am to have anything come down. Once I've established my platform, I'm thinking about pushing up into the flyer's shoulders and providing support along the flyer's wrists to keep them in place. If they're coming off balance, I might do minute articulations with my wrists, but I'm not doing crazy amount of flexion or extension. If I do need to move to stay underneath the flyer, I'm focused on keeping my torso and arms where they are and using my legs in order to get underneath and in fact slightly ahead of where the flyer is falling in order to get them back on top of me. So I'm moving around like this as needed instead of doing crazy things like this. Another way to think about this principle is that if you're balancing a stick on your hand that is falling away from you and you want to keep it upright, you have two options. You can either move the hand underneath the stick in order to keep the stick upright, or you can push with your fingers to stop it from falling. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If there are skills that you'd like to see us cover in the future, please let us know in the comment section down below. And subscribe for more videos in the future. If you think about balancing a stick on your hand and having it fall backwards, I can either move my hand underneath the stick. You can either move your hand. Yep, almost.